Alrighty, hi you guys. It's Madonna Noir, and I'm just here to show you how I bleach my knots on my wig. So I'm using this perfect blonde blue based bleach with a 20 volume clear developer. I purchased the bleach off of Amazon, and the developer I got at my local beauty supply store. um, I use clear developer, which you'll see. I don't use a cream based developer just because I feel like the clear developer works better with penetrating the hair and it really gets the job done. The cream white base developer is almost a little diluted, but one thing about using the clear developer is that it's a lot more potent and it's a lot more strong. You have to make sure you're in a well ventilated area. As you can see, I protected my countertops with the trash bag, anything that you can put down that you can have an easy cleanup. And I really should have on gloves. Don't be like me, wear gloves. But I just knew that it was a quick process dye for just bleaching knots, so it wasn't really that important to me to put on gloves. So now you see me here just mixing it up into a cake batter kind of consistency, something that I can spread on. Now the clip that I initially started putting the bleach onto the lace got cut out because it was out of frame, but here you'll see me smoothing it onto the lace. And like you can see, I'm just kind of dabbing it in, making sure to cover all the knots. And the most important part is just to make sure that you're not pressing it in too hard. Now, with the clear developer, it's kind of harder to do because it literally turns it into a toothpaste like consistency when you mix the clear developer with the powder. But when you mix the white cream based developer, it can kind of turn it into like a more pancake batter consistency, so it'll be easier for it to seep through the lace. But with this toothpaste consistency that I have with the clear developer, you see I can basically just smooth it onto the lace and it doesn't go through. It didn't go through and bleach any of the hair. It literally goes where I put it and that's it. Now you really want to make sure that you're paying attention to the hairline more so than, well, not more so, but it's really important to make sure that you're getting it to the edge of the lace and maybe even further past the hairline, like a half an inch past the hairline, so that you can make sure that your knots are bleached. And I did this process with the 20 volume developer. I only filmed once, but I believe I processed it twice. And then I washed it out with Shimmer Lights purple shampoo. But yeah, it's important that you do that. So you'll see me here applying it to the hairline, making sure to get it all the way to the edge. And that's what I'm doing here, is making sure I'm looking at it from the outside and making sure that I'm smoothing it all the way to the edge. Because if you just do it looking from the inside, sometimes you don't realize that you didn't take it up further and down past the front of that hairline or on the sides where your lace will lay. And that's the most important part, because you want that to be very skin tone and seamless. So when you lay your lace down, it blends in with your skin. Okay, so now here I'm just processing. Now, the processing process of it is really not that long. And what you'll see me doing here is basically checking where I missed any spots, and I'm just using the end of my edge brush to make sure that it's pressed down to the lace, and then you'll process it. And like I said, I believe I did it twice, but don't quote me on that because it's really going to be up to you to check, because basically you're wanting to take it off once you see your knots turn gold. And then that's what you see me doing here. I believe I let it process for about 20 minutes. And but you want to check, don't just leave it for 20 minutes and think, okay, that's what you need to do. You want to part it like you see me doing. You want to check, and I'm also pulling slightly because you can easily over process the knots, over bleach the knots, and then they will just melt right off. I've messed up an entire frontal that way by using too strong of a bleach and over processing the knots and melting the hair right off of the lace. So you want to make sure you're not doing that. I know some people use 30 and 40 volume developer, but I rather use a 20 volume developer and process it multiple times, and then I can just tone it from there. Okay, so now we're getting into the plucking process. This video is going to be short and sweet. Now, the side on the left has been plucked already, and I'm just going to show you guys how I pluck the right side. Now, I'm just showing y'all how it looks afterwards. And I've got this technique that I'm going to show you guys from a YouTuber, and I really want to say her name is Beige Auger, but I'm not quite sure. I'll have to double check that, but I'm like almost 90% sure. But she used this weaving technique, and once I saw this, it just gave me life because one thing about me is I'm a perfectionist. If I something has to look right to me. If it doesn't look right to me, I don't care how many people tell me it looks good. If I don't think it looks good, I don't like it. And so you'll see me here, I'm doing that zigzag motion, and that is what gives me the most realistic hairline. Now, I know a lot of people just say, don't pluck in one area too much or anything like that. And that's how I've always seen the plucking tutorials that people do. They always say it's a trial and error. But to me, I need something more concrete. I need something more uniform. And once I saw her do that technique, or this technique that I'm doing here, this weaving, I fell in love with it because it basically gives you a guide to where you plucked and where you don't want to pluck. Now, for every peak of the zigzag is where I pluck, or you can pluck at the lowest part of the peak. It's really up to you, but you can also isolate where you're plucking when you do that. So it's not like you are over plucking in one area, which is what I used to do a lot when I would just follow, with no guide on how I was plucking, and I would end up with bald spots, or I overplucked one place, or a lot of times, which I see a lot of people's lace when they pluck it, when they go to put their part down the center, it's a big bald spot right there. And with this technique, it will stop you from doing that, because once you pull your comb in the downwards position, like you see me doing, to do that V and to do that first zigzag, it will stop you from even plucking in that area because you've already combed that out of the way. So when you go in to make your middle part, or any part for that matter, it'll just create a more realistic looking hair part space, instead of it having that big circle bald spot where I see a lot of people pluck their lace and then they have that bald spot there when the overall lace looks great, but they have to end up fixing it by laying a comb in the parting space and spraying it with that black spray, which I just feel like it just makes it look like you have a big wig on your head. And we're basically trying to give scalp, and scalp doesn't give a big straight direct part. Scalp gives, inconsistency, you know, densities, different densities. That's what it gives. And so you'll see me just spraying it down. And it might seem like a tedious process, and it kind of is, but the more you do it yourself, you'll get used to it. And I'm still learning. Like I said, I learned it from a YouTuber, and I'll try to look up her YouTube. I'll try to. I'm almost certain that it's that one, the beige OJ. I believe that is who I learned it from. But now you see me combing back everything just to check and see. I plucked out so much hair that it seemed like I plucked out a lot of hair. I'm sorry, but I really didn't. And you can see that when I comb everything back. And so, right there in that first front part, instead of me going around the entire hairline, I'm going to stay right there where I feel like it's still a little thick. And I'm going to go right back in and start plucking. And as you can see, I don't pluck too much of that center because, like I said, I do not want that center part bald spot that I see a lot of people getting in their lace. And this to me is just a really error proof way. You can still overpluck, but to me, if you do this weaving technique, it will almost definitely always give you a realistic hairline. And you'll see here that what I just did is basically what you want to keep doing is going in that deep zigzag motion. The deeper the zigzag and is the best, because now you are going to be able to really realistically see how you're building that hairline and how it's going to look when it's pulled back on your head. And you'll see in part two of my detail lace wig videos that it came out really, really good. It came out really natural looking. And yeah, I really like this technique, and overall, I feel like it's the safest technique that I've ever used. And then you can go back in like you see me here doing, and you can thin out the hairline just a little bit. But to me, the hairline is going to get thinned out overall just from laying it down with the glue. So I don't like to over thin my hairline. And then on the sides, they pretty much make the density of the sides on these lace uh, frontals thinner anyway. So I barely did any plucking over there just because I don't want it to look super thin, and um, I don't want it to be see-through down to the lace. But this is overall how it came out, you guys. Thanks for watching. Appreciate the love, and I really hope this guys helps with your bleaching and plucking.